10, we have Tristan da Cunha. How long do you think you could hang around the same people? Like if I gave you a group of 250 people, a group smaller than most of your elementary schools, how long do you think you could last before you'd be fed up with all of them and walk off the island? Well, if you live on the island of Tristan da Cunha, you wouldn't have a choice. This is the most remote inhabited island in the world. And if you're there, you're kind of stuck there. With the most recent report saying that there's somewhere around 300 people on the island, that number shifts every now and again, but it doesn't change that much. The island itself is a massive volcano. So not only are you stuck around the same people who know everything about you, every day you are at risk of being turned into ash by a wall of fire. But hey, maybe this is your vibe. Maybe you're sick of the city and you want to go to a place where no one can find you and you can just farm and live off the land without worrying about rent or bills or any of that other nonsense. Well, you better do well on boats because this place has no airport. The only way you can get there is to jump on a boat and travel 7 days across the ocean. Basically, if you want to go there, you really gotta mean it. Coming in at number 9, we have Oymyakon, Russia. It's no surprise that Russia is a hard place. Russians are known for their durability and grit. So what would one of the harshest Russian cities look like? Well, look no further because I'm going to bring it to you. Oymyakon is the coldest inhabited city in the world. Why do people live there? I have no idea. Maybe they think the whole world is like that and there's no point in leaving. The average temperature there is somewhere around negative 60 degrees Celsius. That's cold enough that exposed skin can burn in a matter of seconds. If you're wondering what they eat up there, well, let's just say their diet doesn't have a lot of variety. They mostly eat reindeer meat because it's the only livestock that can survive up there, and at the right time of year you might be able to get your hands on some fish. And if you want to leave, well, be ready for the coldest car ride of your life because the closest airport is 560 miles away along an icy and dangerous road. Number 8, we have Kerguelen Island. You know what they say, to each their own. Do whatever makes you happy, or some other hack line from a B movie with bad writing. Well, for the people who head to Kerguelen Island, they have a very strange thing that makes them happy. The island is in the Indian Ocean and there is nothing out there. At any given time, there could be 50 to 100 people there for scientific purposes. And get this, the only way in or out of the island is by boat, and this boat only comes 4 times a year. Yeah, no thanks. Coming in at number 7, we have solitary confinement. This is a different one compared to some of the others on this list, but let's not forget that at this time there are hundreds of people in solitary confinement. There you'll be shoved into a cell by yourself for who knows how long. You wouldn't be able to leave, you would just have concrete walls and yourself. Some people stay in solitary confinement for so long, they develop the opposite of claustrophobia, which is agoraphobia, the fear of open spaces. Coming at number 6, we have the Sahara Desert. I love to lay out in the sun and let the rays hit my skin as I get the best tan ever to show off my summer bod, but there's a limit. If you're stuck in the middle of the Sahara Desert, it would quickly go from feeling like a summer vacation to understanding that you're about to die from dehydration in a matter of hours. This is easily one of the loneliest places on the planet because no one lives out there. It's a barren desert that stretches for 250,000 miles in every direction. I don't care how long you think you can run for, you're not going to cover that distance before you die and are eaten by vultures. I don't even think there are vultures out there. I don't even know. If you were stuck out there, you would have to battle extreme heat during the day and freezing temperatures at night. Can this desert just make up its mind already? Coming in number 5, we have Cape York. Getting lost in the jungles of Australia sounds like a surefire way to end up eaten by some animal that you've never heard of. Cape York in Australia is one of those places where you could end up stranded for a long time. Although it is a popular place for tourists to come check out, it's tucked away deep through the jungle and you don't want to get too close to the water while you're passing through. The area has been known to be infested with crocodiles and other dangerous animals, and it's not the place you want to slip up and get bitten by something that can take your life because the closest town is 28 hours away. I mean, I like to get away. I love to get into nature and hang out with some people away from the busy city, but I don't like it that much. I'll drive an hour out of the city, stop at a park with some buddies, eat a sandwich on a bench, and then get some sun, and then head home. That's about it. I don't need to be so far into the wilderness that if I sprain my ankle, I'm pretty much dead. If you do want to test your mettle in this tucked away spot, then you should get a 4-wheel drive Jeep or an ATV because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Coming in number 4, we have Snake Island. I've talked about Snake Island before, and I'm going to talk about Snake Island again because I love talking about Snake Island. Every time I say Snake Island, I feel like I'm talking about the sequel to Snakes on a Plane, where the plane crashes on a deserted island, and now the people who survived the crash must deal with the snakes again, but this time on an island. How am I not a famous Hollywood producer by now? Well, if you don't know, Snake Island is a landmass off the coast of Brazil, and if you haven't been able to figure it out by now, this place has a few snakes. People say that there are so many snakes on Snake Island that it's hard to step foot on land without a snake wiggling under your foot. Oh, and you better believe that a good number of the snakes on this island are poisonous. So it's pretty clear why I put this one on today's list. There's no one on this island except for snakes. So if you went there for some crazy reason, you would feel very alone, and then you would feel like something's watching you, and you would soon after that be dead. On the bright side, you wouldn't be lonely for very long. Coming in number 3, we have Barrow, Alaska. Now we'll say this, unlike some of the other places that we've had so far on this list, Barrow does have some people, so it's not the loneliest place in the world. You could end up there and make a friend or two, maybe, if they like you. But why would I put Barrow ahead of some of the other spots that we've already had on this list? Well, for 2 reasons. One of them being that the only way in and out of the town is by plane. You have to catch a flight to Anchorage, so being up there would make you feel extremely isolated from the rest of the world. Now, during the summer, you can run around and it might seem like it's very freeing. You're not bogged down by the city. But that brings me to my second point. Come winter, you're going to have to deal with a whole different form of loneliness, because in Barrow, when winter hits, you get 65 days of darkness in a row. I hope you're not afraid of vampires, because these dudes would have a field day with you. Yeah, I think any place where you're not going to see the sun for over 2 months sounds pretty damn lonely. Coming in at number 2, we have Bouvet Island. Why would you ever end up between South Africa and Antarctica? I don't know what's in my future, but I doubt there will be a reason I need to head to that area of the world. I'm more of a city person. I don't need to head out to one of the most remote areas on the planet. Bouvet Island is a landmass that is slap dab right between South Africa and Antarctica, and some call it the most remote island in the world. Absolutely no one lives on there. It's just a frosty wasteland out in the middle of the ocean. If you ever got stranded out there with someone, it would be a race to see who froze to death or starved to death first. There is a little bit of vegetation that has been able to grow on the island, but there is nothing too exciting. Most of it is just moss. If you could manage to find a way to hunt seals and seagulls, you might be able to get enough food to last for a while. Maybe make some oil out of the blubber and start a fire. But even getting onto the island is a feat. The sides are covered with ice cliffs, and even though no one really wants to go there unless for research purposes, there was a lifeboat that was discovered there once, but nobody was ever found. Not even the remains. The person might have been rescued, or they were gobbled up by one of the seals that slink around on the shore. And coming into the number 1 spot, we have Antarctica. I've never been anywhere where you can see death for miles in every direction, and honestly, I don't want to be. I think that's what it would be like to be in Antarctica. The place is literally a frozen tundra that stretches in every direction for hundreds of miles. It's cold there all the time. You know how when you go outside during winter and your feet are cold and you think, I can't wait to go home and warm up? Yeah, that time never comes when you're out there. You're literally just cold forever. Literally. No one goes there because living there would be one of the toughest things a human could bear. I don't know if you've seen people lately, but we tend to be pretty soft. We don't have polar bear type endurance. The only people who head to this wasteland are people who are doing it for research purposes. Could you imagine your job sent you to Antarctica? Your boss looked you in the eye and said, you have to go to the coldest, hardest place to live on the planet. We need data. Yeah, at that point, I would just quit.
Number 10, Black Forest in Germany. The Black Forest in Germany is one of the most mysterious places on Earth, and is said to have inspired many tales by the Brothers Grimm. And if you know the originals, then you know it gets pretty dark. It gets its name from a 100-mile stretch of pine trees that are so dense, the sun struggles to reach the forest floor. If you choose to visit, it is recommended that you make sure to spend at least a good few days exploring it. You definitely won't be bored. There are natural hot springs on the northwestern border, which Romans used to take advantage of after after long battles. Mark Twain once said that time is easily lost within these woods, saying that, and I quote, "Here you lose track of time in 10 minutes and the world in 20. So if you want to do as the Romans did, be sure to make this an addition to your travel plans, after all this is over. Number 9, Kwangsi Falls. Don't go chasing waterfalls, unless of course it's these ones, because man are they breathtaking. Kwangsi Falls are probably the most beautiful system of waterfalls in the world. Move over, Niagara, we get it, you're really big. The inviting turquoise water pours over limestone platforms and rocks, framed by lush greenery from the surrounding forest. The falls are the stuff dreams are made of, and you may never want to leave. There is also a bear sanctuary nearby that you can visit. Locals recommend visitors try and go as early as possible before the falls get a little crowded. Number 8, the Sea of Stars. This one is actually on my bucket list. I've always wanted to see it and I've always wanted to go, and it's actually inspired something I'm writing in a book. So cute little fun fact. We all know the Maldives to be a stunning retreat for any couple seeking a romantic honeymoon. The Sea of Stars is one such reason people go, and I can imagine before anyone knew the science behind it, it must have been seen as a kind of beautiful magic. Let's be honest, science is magic in so many ways. So yeah, imagine having just had dinner and going for a long walk on the beach only to have beautiful blue stars tickle your toes. Well, not stars exactly, but a specific kind of bioluminescent plankton. Stress caused by the movement of the sea and waves leads the plankton to emit light like fireflies. It's one of the rarest events on Earth and can't really be predicted, but Vadho Island in Ra Atoll is the most well-known island where you can see this, so keep an eye out. Number 7, the Chapel de Saint-Michel d'Aguilé. Not to be confused with Mont Saint-Michel, this is one of the most spectacular chapels ever built. Perhaps not for its ordnance, but mostly because of where they decided to put it. It looks like the architect was in some kind of contest that involved building chapels in impossible places. The rock formation it sits on looks like a needle, hence the name, which translates to Saint Michael on a needle. Though of course there are taller places in the world, this is one of the most mysterious and sacred. It used to be a volcano and rises 279 feet with 268 steps leading to the chapel. Beautiful fresco murals and stained glass await you inside the chapel and is often used as a place of meditation and prayer. The thing that most strikes me about this place is imagining how they would have even constructed it. There's not much room up there for an ancient scaffold or something, but apparently the views were worth it, so they figured it out. Kind of like the pyramids. Number 6, the Son Doon Cave, Vietnam. Son Doon is the largest cave in the world and was discovered in 1991 by a man named Ho Khan. The cave was created anywhere between 2 to 5 million years ago by the river that runs through it. The ceiling eventually collapsed, which left fantastic skylights. It is more than 200 meters wide, 150 meters high, 9 kilometers long. You could potentially fit an entire city inside. There's even mini forests. Several treks into the cave have given us tremendous insights into the overall mapping of the cave, and the images are spectacular. It looks like a cave you would find in the middle of the earth, that Jules Verne story. Anyways, if you are a passionate splunker, then I highly recommend checking this place out if you can. But bring friends, Number 5, Mount Roraima. This mountain seriously looks like the perfect battleground for an epic duel face-off between gods. At least that's what I pictured. Mount Roraima sits on the border of Venezuela, Guyana, and Brazil. The mountain's semi-flat surface is a result of heavy rainfall all year round. The rain also causes random spectacular waterfalls. Of course, the mountain was known by locals, but Walter Raleigh made his discovery of it in 1596 while he was trying to find the legendary city of El Dorado, but he was unable to climb it. The easiest way up the mountain is by climbing a natural staircase forest trail on the Venezuelan side, but once you get up there, get ready to give your breath away if it wasn't already taken by the trek. The views from the top are absolutely stunning and you feel as if you are floating on a mountain in the sky. Number 4, Lake Hillier, Australia. Pink! It's pink! It's literally a pink lake. Nature got bored of the color blue and was like, make it pink, and so they did. Separated from the Southern Ocean by just a thin strip of sand, Lake Hillier sits in stark contrast to a bright blue ocean surrounding it. It was discovered in 1802 by Matthew Flinders when he led an expedition to the islands. Despite scientific testing, there is no distinct reason as to why the lake is so pink. Even if you pour it in a glass, it will still look pink. It's not just a trick of the light. Studies suggest that due to the saline quality and the presence of a special special kind of microalgae. The algae produces carotenoids, which is a pigment found in carrots, so that could be one reason as to why it's a pink color. It measures 600 meters wide and is a remarkable image to fly above, especially in contrast to the blue ocean and the greenery around. Oh, gorgeous. Apparently it's safe to swim in, but it's incredibly hard to reach, but not impossible. So if you do decide to visit, get ready for a trek. Honestly, all these places, get your mountain boots on. Number 3, Salar de Uyuni. This is actually on my bucket list. It's been on my bucket list since I think I was around 10. Salar is the world's largest salt flat and can even be seen from space. Layers of salt lie between sedimentary rock, and it is estimated that around 10 billion tons of salt is there. But more importantly, lithium. You know, the material that powers smartphones, laptops, and tons more? Yeah. 70% of the world's lithium stores lie within Salar, and an entire industry has been devoted to the extraction. But other than the science, why is this place so magical? Well, on a still, calm day, a thin layer of water transforms the entire flat into the world's largest mirror. Ever wanted to feel like you're floating in the sky without jumping out of a plane? Well, this is the place to be. If you ever tire of such a sight, you can also check out the thermal waters to end your day. Number 2, the Waitomo Glowworm Cave, New Zealand. Honestly, New Zealand should just be on this list as like, you know it exists, but so many otherworldly places exist in New Zealand. No wonder Lord of the Rings and Narnia filmed there. It truly looks like no other place on Earth. But the Waitomo Glowworm Cave is something you have to visit at least once in your life. Another one on my list. We talked about the Sea of Stars. This is the Cave of Wonders, filled with bioluminescent glowworms called Arachnocampa luminosa, along with albino ants and giant crickets. It honestly looks like a cave that belongs in James Cameron's Avatar. There are a variety of ways you can explore the caves, either by raft or boat rides. It's definitely on my list. Number 1, Huacachina, Peru. Upon approaching this place, you may think it's a mirage created by the heat of the desert that surrounds it, but I assure you it's real. Huacachina, Peru is literally an oasis in the middle of the desert, equipped with nightclubs, restaurants, hotels to boot. It's about 5 hours away from Lima or 15 minutes away from Ica. Besides being famous as the only oasis in a desert, people come here from all over to sandboard. The oasis formed thanks to an underground current that allowed vegetation like palm trees, carob trees, and eucalyptus to grow. But local lore says that the water formed from the tears of a maiden in Takara who lost her true love, an Inca warrior. Then one night, another warrior passed, and fearing being observed, she threw herself into the lake that she had made. She waited there for hours until he passed, and when he finally did, she couldn't leave the lake and had instead transformed into a mermaid. Legend says that every full moon, the woman emerges to cry over her true love once again, filling the lake. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Tristan da Cunha. Tristan is a group of volcanic islands that is located in the South Atlantic Oceans, and it is actually the most remote inhabited archipelago in the world. These islands are around 2,787 kilometers off the coast of Cape Town, 2,437 kilometers from St. Helena, and 4,002 kilometers off of the coast of the Falkland Islands. The population is around 258 people, and they do speak English, but they have also invented their own dialects with words that are reflective of their various places of origin, which is super cool. Tristan is a British overseas territory with its own constitution, and its capital is named Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. To get to Tristan, you're going to have to fly to Cape Town at a time where you can jump on one of the few boats that travel to Tristan in a year. This doesn't seem so bad, but just remember that the boat trip is going to take you about 5 or 6 days to get there, so you might want to take a couple extra weeks vacation if this is your post-pandemic vacation. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Pitcairn Island. Pitcairn Island is one of the group of 4 islands that make up the Pitcairn Islands. This specific one is the only one of the 4 that is actually inhabited, with a population of 56. All of the residents descend from a group of sailors who committed mutiny on the HMS Bounty in 1789 and the few Tahitian captives they had with them. This island is located in the Pacific Ocean, close to the middle between New Zealand and Peru. This island is open for tourist visits and is said to feature some stunning scenery, but it's not necessarily the easiest place to get to, although as their tourism industry grows, it does get easier. First, you have to get to Tahiti, so if you already live there or live close, you're already one step ahead of the rest of us. Then you have to take a local flight to Mangariva, which only happens about once a week. From there, you'll have to take a boat to Rikatia, and from there, you used to have to take a boat called Claymore II, which used to only depart once every 3 months, but luckily it's a bit easier now since 2019. The government has been operating the MS Silver Supporter, which sets sail every week. Tourists will stay at what are called homestays, as it is such a great way for visitors to get a feel of
of the local environment, as well as providing income for the residents of the island. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. In our number 8 spot today, we have Macquarie Island. Okay, this island is cool. Macquarie is located in the southwest Pacific Ocean between New Zealand and Antarctica. The only human inhabitants of this island are the scientists who work at the research base on the island, so depending on the time of year, there's around 20 to 40 people here. But here's where things get really cool. During the breeding season, this island is home to the entire world population of white-chested penguins. That means that there could be around 2 million penguins on the island at one time, greatly outnumbering the humans there. This island has had quite a tumultuous ecological history after the onset of European visits in 1810. The island's fur seals, elephant seals, and penguin populations began to decline since they were being killed for fur and blubber, and of course there was the introduction of rodents from the boats, cats to keep the rodents from eating the human food stores, and rabbits which were brought to breed for food, which threw the entire island ecology totally off balance. It wasn't until very recently that efforts began to restore a more natural ecological balance to the island, and as of 2014, the island was officially declared pest-free after 7 years of strong conservation efforts. This was actually the largest successful island pest eradication program up until that date, which is certainly something to celebrate. Humans caused a major problem, and while it took much too long to fix, I guess the bright side is that it happened at some point. In our number 7 spot today, we have Omeaucan. Omeaucan is located in Russia, and if you've heard of it before, there's a chance it might be because it is known as the coldest inhabited place on Earth. This town has a population of around 500 residents who live in an average temperature of around -40 degrees Celsius, although in the summertime the temperature does get to around 0 degrees. The ground is covered in permafrost, which of course makes growing crops an impossibility, so the main source of food is meat and fish. Due to the temperature here, living of course has to look a little different. It's too cold for plumbing pipes, so restrooms are usually outhouses, engines freeze easily, so cars are usually running continuously, and during the shortest days the residents live in darkness for 21 hours a day. Getting to this small town can take quite some time as well. If you're coming from Moscow, you'll have to take a flight to one of the closest towns, which are both still over 900 kilometers away. The road from these cities that leads to the town is called the Road of Bones, which is extremely ominous sounding and probably a road that should not be traveled alone. In our number 6 spot today, we have Easter Island. Okay, so most of us have heard of Easter Island before, but did you know that it's one of the most remote places? Remember the Pitcairn Island we talked about before? Well, that island is the closest inhabited place to Easter Island, so clearly they're both pretty difficult to access. The closest continental point to Easter Island is a point in central Chile that is 3,512 kilometers away. Easter Island is of course a huge tourist destination as people come from all over to marvel at the iconic Moai statues that the island is famous for. There is much debate over when the island first became inhabited, with some experts claiming it to be around 800 CE, while others swear it was around 1200 CE, but either way the original inhabitants created an incredible thriving life on the island. The island is currently home to around 3,300 residents, and in 2007 the island was given the constitutional status of a special territory. In our number 5 spot today, we have Itorkotomi. This town is located in one of the most remote areas of Greenland and actually requires a helicopter ride from the nearest airport in order to actually get to the town. It was founded quite recently, actually in 1925, by a Danish polar explorer and around 80 Inuit settlers, and is as far as you can get from any other inhabited area in Greenland. Despite this recent settling, based on ruins and other archaeological remains, it became clear that this area was once inhabited sometime in our history by Inuit populations of the past. There's around 450 residents, and the town is known for its wildlife that includes polar bears, muskoxen, and seals. This place can be a popular tourist destination because of the stunning northern lights as well as other natural wonders. Cruise ships also love to stop here, but that can be a little tricky considering 9 months out of the year, sea ice will block any ship from docking. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Siwa Oasis. Siwa is an urban oasis between the Katara Depression and the Great Sand Sea in the Western Desert. This oasis is one of Egypt's most isolated settlements, but it is home to around 33,000 people. The residents have developed a unique and isolated desert culture and language called Siwi, but they are also fluent in an Egyptian dialect of Arabic. The oasis isn't necessarily a super popular tourist destination as the closest city is Cairo, and the oasis is around a 5-hour bus ride away and is of course in the middle of the desert, but those who do take the trip certainly aren't disappointed. If visiting visiting, you can enjoy some locally grown dates and olives, which I can only imagine are incredible. You can swim in Cleopatra's Bath, which is a mineral spring, and you can even stay at the Desert Eco Lodge, which is built from mud and salt. Tourism is actually a vital source of income for the oasis, so visitors are definitely welcomed. Because of how isolated Siwa is, the culture and traditions of the people who live here really have been preserved, which would make it such an interesting and wonderful place to visit. If I ever get the incredible opportunity of going to Egypt, I think Siwa would be on the top of the list for places to visit. In our number 3 spot today we have La Rinconada. This town is located near the Peruvian Andes, very close to a gold mine, and is actually the highest permanent settlement in the world at 5,100 meters above sea level. Between 2001 and 2009, the population of the town increased greatly because the price of gold rose 235% during that time. Because of the elevation, the town has an alpine tundra climate and an average temperature of around 1 degree Celsius. Many of those who work for the gold mines here work under a pretty horrible condition of working 25 days of the month for no pay, and then 5 days of the month they can work for themselves and they're allowed to take as much ore as they can carry on their shoulders. But there's no guarantee that the ore will have any gold in it, however, and this terrible system is why many of the town's residents live in poverty. The town is a 6-hour bus ride from the nearest city on unpaved roads, and there isn't really a regular bus schedule, which makes it a fairly difficult place to go. In our number 2 spot today we have the Cocos Islands. The Cocos Islands are an Australian external territory located in the Indian Ocean and comprises a small archipelago that is around halfway between Australia and Sri Lanka. The Cocos Islands consist of 2 coral atolls that are made up of 27 different coral islands. Out of these 27 islands, only 2 of them are inhabited, with a population of around 600 in total. Because of the isolation of the islands, the people who live here have really kept their language and religious practices as well as other traditions alive, which is such a great thing. Visitors of course have so much to learn about the inhabitants' traditions, but other than that, tourists can go kite surfing, snorkeling, surfing, and bird watching. One of the islands was actually even voted to have the best beach in Australia. One of the islands does actually have an airport with 1 single runway, and a flight can be taken to the island from the closest city, which is Perth, at 2,700 miles away, but the flights only happen around twice a week. In our number 1 spot today we have Palmerston Island. Palmerston Island is a coral atoll located in the Cook Islands in the Pacific Ocean. Palmerston is a very small islet in a series of small islets that are located on a ring of coral reef that encloses a lagoon. The only one of these islets that is inhabited is one that's named home. The closest island to Palmerston is Rarotonga, which is the capital of the Cook Islands, and it would be about a 2-day sailing trip to make it the 500-kilometer distance. But if you aren't already on that island or planning to stop at both islands, the closest trip would be about an 8-day sail from Tahiti. Since the islet is so small, there of course is no airport, so ships are the only way to get here, and supply ships only visit the inhabited island a few times a year. The reef only allows room for smaller boats to pass through, which makes any kind of larger ship unsafe to pass. The island does see a tropical climate, but it is very exposed to tropical cyclones, which of course would cause a whole bunch of problems.